Hi, Dr. Lou here to talk about where to find playtesters, which is primarily a problem for tabletoppers and not video. So, I'm going to talk about where you can go where people play games, or find where people play games. And so it's more about that than about playtesting itself, because obviously if you don't have testers, you can't playtest. For video games, blind testing is the norm because video games work that way. Many of them are single player, so people are accustomed to getting a game without any rule book and playing the game. Now, that didn't prevent Epic Games in North Carolina from visiting the North Carolina State Tabletop Game Club recently looking for playtesters. Here's a list of places to be discussed: college and university game clubs, meetups, sessions at game shops, individual hosting, Unpub, Protospiel, organize them yourself, and game conventions. I'll go through each one in turn. College and university game clubs, if you happen to be near such, if it's a fairly large college or university, it will often have both a tabletop game club and a video club, sometimes called an esports club. And these will usually, but not always, be official clubs. I was involved with starting a tabletop game club called Drago at Duke University as far ago as the 70s, and that lasted about 30 years. And it's now succeeded by Dagger. I don't know if the similarity in name is an actual connection or not. North Carolina State has had a tabletop gamer club for more than 8 years with as many as 84 attendees. The much newer esports club at NC State is also much larger. UNC Chapel Hill has an informal tabletop game club. University of Florida has the Gator Gamers and a video game club. Well, these are universities that I happen to have an interest in. I doubt that they're exceptional for game clubs. Community colleges are less likely to have game clubs simply because, in most cases, the people don't live on campus. They go back home, and so they're less likely to stay for a game club unless it's perhaps in the late afternoon right after a class. Where I've been at community colleges, I've often started a game club, but it's not the kind of thing that can continue for many years, most likely, unless the particular person is there all through that time. Now, meetups originate through Meetup.com. And the whole purpose of Meetup.com is to help like-minded people get together for whatever it is that they do. So most cities, and say a metro area of 250,000 or more, have a few game meetups, whether RPG or board or video or CCG. And it's easy to search for it at Meetup.com. Some of these work through game shops. Most of them work through meetings at people's homes. Then we have sessions at game shops. Now keep in mind, running a game shop is a tough business. So many game shops try to survive by building a clientele through game meetings at the shop. If they do, they often have gaming almost every evening. Some hobby shops will do this as well. Some will be happy to provide space if you ask. For example, the North Carolina Game Designers Guild meets at two different game shops. And presumably they asked if they could meet there. And the meetings are relatively small because the group is relatively small, but space is provided. Now, sometimes there'll be a small charge, like $2 per person for these places, sometimes not. If you have a local game or hobby shop, check them out on the web or in person, or even start from the phone book to see what you've got. Then we have individual hosting, which is not very common, but I know someone who's hosted a game meeting in his house on the third Friday of the month for more than 10 years. He's not a designer, he just likes to play games. When he and his wife were buying a house, they deliberately bought one that was suitable for this kind of game meeting. But you're going to be lucky if you find something like that. Of course, you could do it yourself as well. Now, my friend organized this originally through the SCA and through other contacts he had, and later through meetups, and he finds he has to keep advertising it or the numbers go down, but he's had more than 40 people at times. Unpub is an annual convention in Baltimore for aspiring game designers. Unpub meaning unpublished. People come to show and playtest prototypes, and publishers do attend, and sometimes deals are made. In some locations, people organize mini Unpubs at game shops that have a lot of space. For example, Atomic Empire in Durham, North Carolina, which is a former furniture store. Along with Unpub, it appears that game designers guilds, which are clubs really, are on the rise, and if you're lucky enough to have one local to where you are, you can find yourself playtesters there. You playtest their games, they playtest your games. Similar to Unpub is Protospiel, which is actually older, I believe. Informal conventions for aspiring designers in a variety of locations, for example, Lansing, Michigan, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Unpub depends on the public for playtesters. At Protospiel, it's the designers who do the testing, I think. Publishers do attend. Now, of course, you can organize meetings yourself. At times, I've had people come to my house fairly regularly by invitation. Sometimes I met them through colleges. Sometimes I met them through putting up a notice on a bulletin board in a hobby shop or other means. Unfortunately, I live out in the sticks, so it's very much hit and miss. But as I say, some game shops have bulletin boards where you can post a notice. You can search for fellow gamers on specialized websites like Board Game Geek. You can even look on Craigslist, and occasionally there might be an entry about games. I leave game conventions for last because some people have more important things to do at a convention than play prototype games. It depends on the convention. And I'd say that's even more true for video game conferences, that people are not going to be playing prototype games there. Smaller conventions are better for getting playtesting done, in my experience, maybe because there's less of other things to do. On the other hand, lately we have these speed dating and other designer-specific events at game cons, and though I think these are more for showing games where publishers see them than for playtesting, at Gen Con there was a big and very expensive playtesting hall for game designers. So there are lots of possibilities, but you have to work at it, just like in almost everything else having to do with game design. Thanks for listening.